Early winter, Tay Ninh welcomed a sudden cold spell. The distant mountains were covered with a thin layer of snow, something that rarely appeared in this land. As the sun gradually rose, the first rays of sunlight filtered through each bare tree branch, illuminating the quiet forest. The chirping of birds somewhere in the cold space soothed people's hearts. Mr. Tu's tree sawing team had gathered early, in a small truck rumbling through the village road. Today's task was to saw rotten trees, broken branches and split the wood into small pieces to make firewood to provide for the people in the cold winter. The car stopped in a forest near the edge of the village. Mr. Tu, tall, strong and always with a leadership demeanor, got out of the car first. He wore a thick brown coat, a pair of old but still durable leather gloves. He looked around, exhaling a thin white smoke from his cold breath. "This place is good," he said loudly, his voice echoing through the forest. "Everyone, get your tools ready and get to work." The team, consisting of 6 people, started unloading the truck, chainsaws, axes, ropes, and some snacks for the lunch break. Lamb, the youngest member of the team, was always the one to make a scene. He carried the heavy axe on his shoulder and said sleepily, "On two, it's so cold, why don't you let me make some hot tea first? My hands will probably freeze." On Hoa, the oldest and nicknamed the tree saw expert, patted Lamb's shoulder and laughed loudly, "Just hold the axe and chop, you'll get hot after chopping." As the sunlight began to strengthen, dispelling the fog, the team got to work. On 2 assigned tasks clearly. Lamb and Hoa were responsible for using axes to split large sections of wood. Min and Fong cut smaller branches for firewood. On Tu and On Duk, who was in charge of the chainsaw technique, handled the large and difficult to cut trees. The chainsaw sounded rhythmically, each cut was decisive and precise. The first tree was a large, dead acacia tree, lying precariously between 2 other trees. On Tu held a rope, tying it to the trunk to make sure it fell in the right direction. "Be careful," he reminded the team. This tree is hollow, it can easily fall unexpectedly. When the tree fell with a loud crack, Lamb shouted excitedly, "That's what sawing a tree is. How fun!" The logs were quickly divided into small pieces and bundled. Min, always the storyteller, started the conversation. "The other day I sawed a tree and found a beehive." The whole team ran around. Everyone said it was the first time they saw me run that fast. The whole team burst out laughing, their laughter echoing throughout the forest. In the middle of the work, snow began to fall. At first, it was just small snowflakes, then it gradually became thicker. The snow covered every branch of the tree, making the space magical. Lamb, who had never seen so much snow before, looked up in amazement. "It's really beautiful. I have to take some pictures." On2, who was inspecting a large tree, smiled lightly. On2, who was inspecting a large tree, smiled lightly. The falling snow made the path slippery, and the tools were easily frozen. But no one in the team complained. They saw it as an interesting challenge, and continued working with undiminished enthusiasm. As the sun rose, the team gathered around a small fire. Each person held a cup of hot tea, the warmth spreading in the cold air. Mr. Hoa began to tell about his early days in the profession. At that time, I was as young as Lamb is now. At first, I didn't know how to use a saw, I just thought that strength was enough. As a result, the tree fell sideways, crushing the newly bought bicycle. From then on, I learned to respect each tree. The story made the team ponder. Mr. Tu added, "In this profession, you not only need strength but also experience and observation. Each tree has its own way of cutting. Never underestimate them." As usual, Lamb broke the serious atmosphere, and Mr. Tu, has a tree ever defeated you? Mr. Tu laughed out loud, "Yes. That time it was an old eucalyptus tree, I miscalculated the direction it would fall. Luckily, the whole team escaped in time. From then on, I always checked carefully before sawing." In the afternoon, while everyone was working, a large pine tree suddenly leaned towards Lamb's group. Ontu's shout rang out. "Run!" The whole team dispersed quickly, but Lamb slipped on the snow. Min rushed forward and pulled him out of the danger zone by just a hair's breadth. The pine tree fell to the ground with a loud bang, snow flying everywhere. The whole team checked carefully to make sure no one was injured. Ontu said sternly, The whole team checked carefully to make sure no one was injured. Ontu said sternly, Lamb, despite his pale face, forced a smile. "This time I will remember for life. Thank you, Min." As the evening sun set, the team finished their work. The bundles of firewood were neatly stacked on the truck, ready to be taken back to the village. The snow was still falling, but it was no longer as cold as in the morning. Before leaving, Tu stopped to look around the forest where they had worked all day. He smiled, feeling satisfied not only because the work was done, but also because the camaraderie between them was growing stronger. "Let's continue tomorrow," he said, his voice soft but determined. Lamb, this time without complaining, enthusiastically replied, "Of course, Tuesday. But remember to bring more hot tea." The cheerful laughter rang out, blending into the white snow, closing a meaningful day and opening up new joys for tomorrow.